TV. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. Here to talk about the wonderful and amazing FileMaker platform. Today we are it is Thursday, so we're continuing our wonderful series with HOnza, where he hosts a variety of really amazing and fascinating people to talk about really cool and intricate stuff in the FileMaker platform that we don't frankly usually talk about on this channel. So, today we're here with Philipp Puls, who is wonderful. I've just been chatting to him. It's been a delight meeting him. And him and Hans will be talking about mirror tables in FileMaker, which I read the description of it, but I am curious to see the actual in detail discussion. Philipp's company is hosting something really awesome, which I'm going to ask him to talk about real here, which is a conference for FileMaker in June of 2025. Phillips, you want to tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, just a quick word. We had one unconference in Europe over the last 13 years that was really successful, which was hosted in Berlin, but sadly enough, that got discontinued. And so we thought we had to pick up the baton and keep the energy going. So next year we are meeting in Vienna. We have 100 places because if the crowd gets too big, discussions are hindered. So we limit ourselves there. And by today, 40 tickets are sold. So grab your seats, prepare something, but not too much, because an unconference lives off the spontaneity and the discussion more than a sleek PowerPoint. And let's learn from each other.
No, that'll be awesome. Also, it's located in Historical Quarter, which is I'm immediately intrigued, but I'm a amateur. That's always really fun. All right, so I'm going to officially hand it over. HOnza, what are we doing today?
Hello, everyone. So this is another episode of the stream series focused on performance, where I'm interviewing people who actually do care about FileMaker performance. And that's the reason why Philipp is here, because he's going to talk about two specific techniques that he is using to get the most out of FileMaker, and very successfully. Though he calls them mirror tables, don't confuse that with mirror sync, and CronJobs. But before I ask Philipp the first question, I have to share something I'm really excited about. Yeah, just last night, I returned from EngageU, the European FileMaker Conference, actually the largest European FileMaker Conference this year with 200 attendees. And let me share my screen just briefly, because you may already know about our Initiative 24, which is trying to convince all the communities to support our idea to get the FileMaker calculation engine faster for everyone. And this is what our progress in getting enough votes to make it #1 idea on FileMaker community or Claris community was before the conference. Check these 338 votes to reach target. Just one reminder, every vote gets 10 points. That's why the number in the progress bar are 10 times higher. And this is the current progress, where we already reached 338 votes. So we passed the half of the target at the conference, but we are still looking for 317 people to vote for the idea to get #1. So if you would like to have the calculation engine faster and have not voted yet, or your friends have not voted yet, I'll be glad if you support us and add your votes to this idea. So that's what I wanted to share in the beginning. And now back to Philipp. And before we dive into the performance techniques, Philipp, let me ask you, where are you coming from? And I know that your second name is Amadeus, like Amadeus
Yes.
Mozart. So do you have any strong relationship to music in your family?
Not at all. That was a decision my father made, because with Philipp and Puls, you had so many P's colliding that he argued that you needed something in between, just not to stutter too much. And Philip, in fact, is Greek for the one who loves horses, and Amadeus then is Latin for being loved by God. So I'm the the horse lover being loved by God, Puls, whatever.
Well, that's amazing. And what about your professional career and your company? Tell us a little bit about it.
I've trained in university in theoretical physics, and somehow found out halfway through that I was not good enough for frontline research and a bit too vain for being a second liner. So I had to look for something else. I did a small detour for 10 years where I founded a market research company, and used my skills from mathematics to dissect questionnaires, because after all, a questionnaire is just a 20 or 30 dimensional vector. And for the whole time, I was basically my own in-house developer in FileMaker. I did all my self-organizing in FileMaker. And when I sold my shares in my advertisement agency, I decided to make that hobby, or that point of interest, my main focus. And I found Stephen, my companion in crime now, for 12 years, whom I'd known for a long time. And he already had a FileMaker solution company. And we started projects together. And at one point, I bought some shares there, and we're now equal partners. And it's good and fun. And basically, every day I wake up knowing that I don't have a job, but I have a hobby that pays my life nicely. And if you can say that, I think you reached something.
That's wonderful. And your company is called 72 Solutions. What does that 72 stand for?
The original product that Stephen had on the market was called Base 72. And as I came from marketing and market research, I decided that when we wanted to build up a plethora of products, they would all be called 72 somewhere. Like Base 72 was our CRM, and then we had Time 72, which was a time tracking software, and Data 72, which was online questionnaires, etc. And to put a bracket over all of those, we thought that all those could be just 72 solutions.
Okay, and do your solutions all have 72 mirror tables in them?
We try to keep them at a more sensible quantity.
Okay, great. So, well, that leads me to asking, what is a mirror table?
FileMaker is, we don't have to argue much about that, is a great tool. But it has some limitations, and those limitations are more obvious the broader your table gets. So the number of fields on a table is more limiting in speed than the amount of records you have in there. So if you have very narrow tables, like for example in my audit log tables, I have like 30 fields, and 10 million records in a SQL query are fast like that. No problem at all.
Okay, let me know. Do a quick poll in the audience. Put in a number in the Discord or YouTube comments, or what is that third channel, Margaret? Is that Twitch?
Twitch. It's Twitch.
Yeah. So put in a number. What is the maximum number of fields you have seen in a single table? And now, what does that mean, Philip? Having too
The
many fields in a table.
I think the maximum number I've seen in a table were a couple of thousand, and quite recently even.
Really? Ooh.
Yes, yes. He built a database that was basically one table,
Oh, that
and
would
he
do it.
just utilized different fields for different tasks. It I would say it wasn't a concept, it was a mishap. But anyway, what I tend to try to limit myself to is once I hit 100 fields on a table, there's really time to think about it. Normally, I tend to say to my customers when they demand something, a relationship is cheap, but you have to fight over a field. Keeping that in mind, we have decided to build those mirror tables, which are basically just one-on-one connections. So I have a contacts table and I have contacts external data table, and they are linked over the ID of the contact, and every contact has a record in that mirror table. And in those mirror tables, you can put everything there that is not for searching or maintaining a record. Data that is stored there is like your address block that you need for your invoices. That is calculated by the business rules of what's the preferred address and is he working in a company and is it a company that has a separate delivery address, blah blah blah. All those calculations can be stored in that mirror table, external contacts data. But you would never search for that. You would just query that or get data of it by a script or whatever. But when you want to work with your contacts, you have 100 fields or 150 fields, the most.
I
And
guess you have an example to show, right?
yeah, I can. And the external data then just sits there. That is our base 72 toolbox, and I would now move over to contacts. And here in those contacts, when we hit the tables, we see that our contacts have 106 fields. And here is the external contacts data with 132 fields. And now in the relationship graph, they are, wow, that's a bit strange seeing it that big. I never do. That is now contacts. Oops. Let me find that for a second.
Are you already using 21.1?
Yes.
Then I guess you should be able to use the open quickly to find that table occurrence. Just press
You
Command
think so?
K.
Wait a sec.
Or you have MBS as well.
And here we are. Kontaktauslagerung. And they are just linked via the ID contact. That's a naming convention that we agreed on ages ago. I know we can fight over naming conventions for the next years. And if you ask 21 FileMaker developers for their naming conventions, you get 25 ideas. But we decided that in principle, every field that holds the same information needs to have the same name. So by that dogma, we needed to differentiate the ID field of a table, and now it's NR for number and the table name. And we know that this is the primary key on the contacts table, and it would automatically be a foreign key on another table as the names don't match. Just an idea. And the second part that we are using that for is our contacts to AI data. Because in the AI data, we are able to collect AI-driven information about companies and people in companies. And then we would embed the vectors for the semantic search there. And if I don't need that data load being pulled, I can't put that in the contacts table. It needs to go elsewhere. Now, of course, we also know that we have a strange behavior in FileMaker, which is that once you have opened a popover with a field that is situated in one of those mirror tables, I leave that. Now that that popover is never really gone. So it would be much nicer if we put that in a card window, but then searching for it is really a hassle because you need to switch over the quantities that you found. So that's a bit of a trade-off. Um,
Can you explain a little bit in more detail what do you mean by the popover being always there? Do you mean that when you open the popover and then switch to another record, it behaves just like if in that other
yeah.
record you open the popover again if you even if you don't do it?
If you have a big calculation field in there, worst case scenario, a difficult SQL query in a calculation field, this still gets evaluated even though you don't open the popover.
And does it happen always or only after you use the popover for the first time?
After you use it for the first time.
Wow. I wasn't even ever about this behavior. So thanks for sharing this. Now, a little bit back to why is it bad to have all the fields in one table?
When you're opening a record in FileMaker, the client tries to do workload for us. So FileMaker loads all the data of this record plus all the data of the related records because you might need them in a portal or wherever. So it is important to know on which layout you have what fields. So if you have too much related info on a list layout, that would mean that all the tables that are being presented in the list layout are then calculated. I learned that the hard way because, of course, in the old days, we were putting calculation fields in invoice line items. And the invoice then calculated over those calculation fields in the line items. And that was all good and well until we hit 300,000 invoices with a customer. And then you couldn't even scroll anymore in a list view because calculating all those summary fields over all those relationships for 100 records, as FileMaker normally caches the next 100 records, so you have a smooth scrolling experience, it really killed us. So what we had to do was we switched out all the calculation fields to auto-entry fields. And now if we want to calculate something, we set a field we call update timestamp on one record that we want to recalculate, and that triggers all the calculations on that record. But everything else is just static data.
Yeah, and as an extra detail, you mentioned that FileMaker reads all the data from all records. So that's a crucial information to repeat even multiple times. If you need only a single field and if you put only a single field on the layout, FileMaker still loads all the fields from that record. So
Yes,
if you put a field from a related record, FileMaker loads that related record and all the fields
completely.
from that. So if you have 1,000 fields in a table and you only need one, FileMaker still loads all the 1,000 fields. And one thing is even worse. If you modify that single field, FileMaker sends all the 1,000 fields back to the server again. And then it loads those 1,000 fields back from the server just to make sure that it has all of them up to date. So
And it
that
would load
actually,
and it would push that change to every connected client.
yes, that's even worse. So that's the main reason for mirror tables.
Yes. And they save me a lot of hassle because all that heavy lifting or those fields that you just need there sitting, are just one step further away. And if you don't need them, you don't put them on a list view. They are not in a relationship and everything's fine.
Okay, so a few minutes ago, David Angel asked if you have 400 fields in a single table, is it better to create four tables linked by a key? So I guess this what we have just said answered yes and even why, correct?
I guess so. It really depends on how you need that structure and how you need that information visible.
Oh, that's a good point. So basically, if you do need all those 400 fields and you need to display them on a layout, it doesn't help to have them in separate tables. But if you don't
Exactly.
But if you don't need to have them on the layout, don't need to search in them, don't need to sort by them, if you have them hidden, then hiding them in a separate table can minimize the overhead of working with the current table.
Most certainly. The other thing that we do is um, we have for every table that we have, I can show you here, um, we have three table occurrences. That's our standard. So the first one is the base table occurrence. And the second one here is one, it's called underscore OB for German without connections. And all the scripts, all the standard scripts that would modify a record, they would go to a layout that sits on that OB table. So creating and modifying a record, when I do that uh, in a script, is much quicker because it doesn't pull anything from any other table.
I never thought about doing that. That makes perfect sense when you say it out loud like that, and then I go like, oh, why don't we do that? But it never occurred to me.
Yeah, how about if you have calculations in that record that relate to other tables? Those are still calculated anyway, right?
And that's why we don't have those calculations there. We have auto entry fields. And if we want them to calculate and to fire, we set an update timestamp.
Okay, so but for a new record they will calculate, right?
When
But
you need
not
them calculated, you need to calculate them, sure.
yeah. Okay.
And a faster calculation engine would do us all good.
Thanks. Uh, okay, David has one more question. I had that if you have a summary field and place that in a popover with not cal will not calculate it until you open the popover. Is that not true?
First of all, don't use summary fields. They're a pain because they're always calculating on the actual found set. And you have to care for entering a table or entering a layout with the correct found set and wanting to see this. There are some few reasons for summary fields on print reports, I guess, but everywhere else you can do just the same thing in a button bar and calculate it when you want to show it. And just then.
Okay, but isn't I will just question that isn't isn't actually a summary field a thing that recently I think in 20 maybe 19.6 was optimized to calculate on a server in certain situations, unlike the sum aggregate function, which is not optimized this way and always calculates on a client.
That might well be, as my software is a vertical solution, and we have developed that now over the last 12 years. Some of those new optimizations have not trickled into our solutions, and we're just wary of summary fields as we were 4 versions ago.
Okay, makes sense. Well, anything else you would like to say about mirror tables? Because before we switch to the other even more interesting topic, and that's the cron jobs.
I think it's data structuring that really puts you on that path. And once you have your mindset on the idea that one table can be two and it's seamless, it can be seamless where you need it because you only have a one-to-one relationship. So only that one extra record is being pulled. And when you have when you've realized that, uh, of course, you need to pull that data when you want to display it, but you can avoid pulling it all the times you don't need to display it. That makes it worthwhile thinking about putting it somewhere else.
Okay, and that by the way reminds me that the similar rule applies when you are also pulling data from FileMaker using data APR or OData. Always think about which fields you need and only
Yes.
pull those fields that you need and not the other ones. The benefit of OData and data API is you can really limit the number of fields that you are getting, not getting all of them from the table. But keep in mind that FileMaker still needs to read the whole record before it gives you the limited field. So if you don't have those fields in the table at all, it's still going to be faster than if you have them there and just don't ask for them. Yeah, David asks, the disconnected table is a base table for a new window that is used to create or modify the field.
Yes. When you do it in a script.
Okay. Well, so I think we have covered the mirror tables, but if some questions arise later, we will definitely answer them. But let's talk a little bit about cron jobs and what do you use that term for? I know that cron is a tool that runs on a Linux or Unix systems, and macOS has inherited that together with macOS 10, but many people don't even know that it's there, and now it's even obsolete. So, what is it? What do you call cron jobs, and does it have anything to do with cron?
It it's just a conceptual idea that just spilled over from Linux to our solutions. Because what cron in Linux is the ability to schedule tasks. There it would be periodic tasks. For us, it is scheduling tasks that a user kicks off, or even periodic ones, like synchronizing a calendar. We would do that over cron jobs. So this concept came into our world, at least. I think it was one of the .fmps in Berlin, where was it Michael Haider showing off an early version of that. So I'm not taking full credit for the idea, um, because in those days we had the advent of Perform Script on server. And we all thought that just firing off PISA scripts at an insane rate with 30 users on the system will free us from lots of communication on the server. And apparently it didn't. Because once the server load gets too high, everything freezes. Um, and so we had to find a way to discern what job is urgent, what job is just important, what job is maybe time-based for next night, um, and being able to control how many of those piso scripts are running in parallel. Um, and of course, there are still some piso scripts that you fire off because you know you don't want to be able to be interrupted, even if the the connection to my FileMaker database breaks down. I still want to have my quote being transferred into an invoice without any errors. Then we do a piso script, just like in the old days. But for example, when you have a mailing going out and you have a couple of thousand emails being sent, and now all those emails need to be in a protocol with each recipient so that I know what communication I had with them. Then we have this funny table here, and I just need to put that window in the right position so it doesn't snap away every time. Here we go. So we have this table here where we at the moment have 46 of those CronJobs in here. And in a moment, I will move over to them and you can have a look at what's all there. But basically, we have a script name. So we're doing call script by name. We have a user who has inputted that script. We have a module name because our FileMaker solution in base 72 is modularized. So we have one FileMaker file for contacts, we have one FileMaker file for invoices, we have one FileMaker file for emails, for example. And with that name and with the script name, we can address centrally every script in every module by name. Then we have a or multiple parameters in a text field. We have a status. The status 0 is this cron job has not been started yet. That's fresh. 1 would be it's currently running, and 2 would be it's finished. We have a priority. So priority 1 would be executed first, and you can stack them as high as you like. And then we have a planned start. Because when I send 5,000 emails, it doesn't really matter when that contact history is being inputted in my contacts, as long as it is inputted. So we put it off next midnight. And once that starts, my piso script would work through that. Then I have here some settings. I have a maximum number of piso scripts running. So every time one of those records is being written and the priority is 1, it would automatically fire a pisos cron job restart script to work through those. If the planned start is now. If the planned start is in the future, it wouldn't do that, and it would wait for server-side scripts for that thing to fire off. And I can show you that in my FileMaker console, because here in the configuration, I love it that the schedules are in one place now. It's so amazing. We have here the restart cron jobs, and I have 3 of those scripts here. And they start every minute. Every minute one of those starts and has a look at the table if any cron job is to be executed right now. We have found out that there is an overhead of having a piso script or a schedule script logging into your system. There's an overhead because it has to load all the relationship graphs. It has to authenticate. It has to register the plugins, blah, blah, blah. It takes quite a long while to wait for that initial action. But in the beginning, we thought that's no problem at all. We just start them and let them run for 100 loops. So they would look for a cron job to be executed, execute one. After the first execution, they would wait for a random number of milliseconds, because I don't want two of the 10 cron jobs accessing the same record at the same time. Even if I have a security thingy there with a record open script step, I had issues when two scripts entered one record at exactly the same time. It's crazy seldom that this happens, but it can happen. So we have that little random wait in there, and then they go for the next record. And now I have those jobs not running for 100 loops anymore nowadays, because I found out that after about 50 or 60 loops, the execution of a script becomes slower and slower, and the last 20 loops are so slow that it's not worth waiting for them. So what we do now is we just have 20 loops and we just start them in quicker succession.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had no idea that the loops would get slower on the same script.
So even if you wait just a 1 second, is it getting slower after 40 loops?
Yep.
So if the queue, as I could call it, is empty and you're just checking whether there is anything waiting to be processed, it's better to just restart the script every minute. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes.
That's an amazing discovery. I have one additional discovery from a few years ago. Not sure if it's still valid in the current version, but when we implemented also some kind of queue processing of events, also to avoid too many concurrent scripts running on a server, uh, there was one other crazy thing that I noticed, and that was when the script was just looping on the same record and checking one field which we were using to trigger the action by changing the value of the field. The script never triggered because
Okay.
for some reason uh, in that short loop, uh, the scripting engine didn't bother to update the cache. So it was still checking the cache contents and didn't have a chance to get the update from
Yeah.
the database engine that the record has actually changed. And
Yes.
so so
Michael
so
Hennings. Wait a sec. Michael
Mhm.
Hennings has found that and has showed it off to me. And the only way to get past that problem is to have an open record script step. The open record saves you.
Oh, that's a good advice because Open Record actually forces the client, which in this case is the scripting engine, to send a request to the server to log the record for itself, which it
Yeah.
doesn't, which actually triggers the record to be updated from the server to the client if it has changed, right?
Yeah.
That's great. What we tried to use, but we didn't find it reliable enough, was that we were using the get user count function because that's one function that's guaranteed to communicate with the server because to get the
Ah,
user count you need to send a request to the server to send the user count back to you. But and normally when you send a request to the server should include in the response any updates that are waiting to be delivered to you as a client. But
okay.
that open record seems to be even more reliable way to do it because it should never log that record for you if you don't have the up-to-date version of it.
Yeah. It's really scary. What I can show you here now is we can switch over to that base table, and what we are dealing with are those fields here. No user ever goes there. It's just for administrative purposes. So what I have here is I have a hash of the parameter. Okay. And I have a field that calculates the duplicity of that record, saying, I want to know, is there any other record that is not being touched right now with the same file? So the file is here in front with the same script name and the same parameter. And if that already exists, I don't make another record. Because there is no point in doing one operation twice in a cron job. Okay? Then we have here the fields that we already know. The script parameter, the script name, the module name. Here I have a field with a pseudo XML. So that's how old it is. Nowadays we would do JSON, but that's the time of pseudo XMLs. And I can pull that out, copy, and show you in Sublime, because Sublime has such a nice FileMaker or XML feature. Here we go. So what we have here is we have all the global fields that are in the settings table that is being populated when a user logs in. And all those are being pulled into one XML, into one field. Why do I do that? Because before I execute that script, I write those numbers and those names and those addresses and whatever back into the global fields of the user table that is now being executed by the perform script on server. Because this way, what we have is we have the right user and the right user rights for that file execution of that cron job, and we will have the right modify user. Okay.
I guess that means that when you are actually recording who modified a record, you're not using the get account privilege or get current account, but instead using a global field, correct?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Lebo on Discord has a question. Restart, does that mean that we close and reopen all the files? I guess he's probably referring to your restart
Yes.
restart cronjob script.
Yes,
So
that's what it means. I open all the files in a cron job, and I execute 20 of them, and then I close them down again. And then the temp file is gone and everything's fresh and nice. What we can do now is for those 46 records, I can put the plan start on now. And we go back to the module list and to the cron tab. And when we now say reset and execute, then it spins up 10 cron jobs on the server. And of course, they take a wee while to start working. But while we talk on, we will see in the back that it's already executing and the 46 will shrink down. And by this way, we also have a situation where we can, no, it's not active. Wait a sec. There's something wrong there. For my error correction, let's have a look at the databases. Oh, they're just starting up. Just give them a bit. For error correction in scripts, when you have a script that goes into some other table that is maybe the record that you want to write into is being locked by another user, but you don't want to abort your whole script, then all my scripts setting those fields would then write themselves a cron job to change that one record in 5 minutes.
So what if you have some script that runs really long, like generating some complex report? And what if you have a script where accidentally you create an infinite loop? How do you deal with those situations?
Better programming?
I mean, for instance, you mentioned that you restart your cron jobs very often, but what if a script runs for 20 minutes? Does it mean that you just have to have less than 10 such scripts running and all is fine because you have up to 10 cron jobs?
Yeah. So one takes longer and the other ones pick up.
Okay, well, I have one thing that we use that you might benefit from as well, unless you have already implemented it somewhere. And we also have a thing called heartbeat. So when we have a script that runs longer than perhaps a minute, uh, we keep updating that. Uh, we have one more field for the
You see,
heartbeat.
they're running now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are only 20 left. So basically, in that record for the queue or for that script, we have one extra field for the heartbeat, and that gets updated typically at least once per minute. So we see that the script is really still running, and if there is anything that we can use to indicate how far it is in processing, for instance, if it loops through a found set of 1,000 records, we just update that heartbeat with the progress percentage to know how far we are and how long we are supposed to wait before it finishes.
Yeah, we have that here. We have here a table that we use to get percentages for a progress bar from a PSOS script back to the user.
Oh, great.
So when you have a longer running PSOS process that the user is in fact waiting for, you still want to present them with a progress bar. So we have one loop script running at the client, pulling that one record with his process UUID for the percentage and updating an MBS progress bar with it, and the server writing his progress in that record.
And has any one of those scripts has ever frozen for you so that you would have to go to the admin console and kill that kill
If
that
Claris
user?
is listening to that podcast, I have to say no, FileMaker never freezes.
Okay, so that's exactly what we are using that heartbeat for. So we have another dispatching script that checks those heartbeats, and if there is a job running that has not updated the heartbeat for longer than I believe 2 minutes, then we get a message that it's probably frozen and we should deal with it.
I have even tried something similar, uh, and I've used the admin API on it, and I had then disconnected that job or even restarted the script engine, which is a bit rough. And I stopped doing that. But yeah, sometimes you have to get creative.
Like all FileMaker developers.
But isn't that the beauty of it?
Yeah, it is definitely.
So that was the cron jobs basically.
Okay, and how does that compare to having just multiple script schedules in the admin console?
Well, the script schedules in the admin console could pile up. So those three script schedules that I have here, they are um, perpetually looking for jobs to do. If a user needs something quick, I can I can force those jobs to start. And nowadays, you could even spin them up by doing a piso script in a piso script.
Yes, I wanted to say that with the new version, you can
Yeah,
actually perform script on server from within a script that's already running on a server. That's
exactly.
that's the new
But
thing.
here I'm still a bit too scared because there you could loop yourself to death.
Definitely. And by the way, one extra benefit of these cron jobs that Philip didn't mention is in the schedules in the admin console, you have only limited options for scheduling the script. Like you can have it run every hour, every day, or every week, whatever. But what if you want to run a script every working day between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. only? That would be difficult to set up in the admin console. And if you want to only run it under certain conditions, with the cron jobs, whatever you can do in FileMaker and evaluate in a calculation engine, you can do, right?
Exactly. And the point is, I think that you can now, with that cron job table, you can stack up jobs in the background and say, well, they are important, but they are not urgent, like fetching emails or syncing your Google Calendar or whatever. Okay. And you have a server side script that is continuously generating cron jobs to sync. And then the cron jobs get executed when there is time for it and not no more urgent cron jobs are available. So the
So
user side cron jobs are prioritized.
So basically, you can schedule a script to run not at a specific time, but as soon as the server is kind of bored.
Exactly. You just lower the priority.
David in Discord is asking you schedule to erase temp in the server.
Yes, once a day.
So that's a reminder for those who don't know it or who forgot. There are a few predefined system scripts in FileMaker, I believe, since version 19, which you can use to do some cleanups, which we would hope for FileMaker server to figure out on its own that it's necessary, but at least we have a way to tell it to do so.
Yeah, I have that purge script on every server. I have a restart script engine script on every server. And I've written myself a shell script that is being executed here. So I can install Christian's MBS plugin on the server via the uh, the admin console, and I can update from here, and it's really nice because that shell script does the get command for the file from Christian's directory, and the shell script can stop the script engine. The shell script can delete the old file, can extract the gzip file and put it in the right directory with the correct rights and restart the script engine. And it's marvelous.
How often does the verify run?
I think it's set on manual. Yeah, it's disabled. Because verifying closes all the databases. I'm not in the habit of closing databases. I find that very annoying. They should be able to verify it while it's running. But anyway, maybe in 5 or 10 versions.
Yeah, and but as a reminder, the reason why this exists is even though we are able to verify the clones when we create a backup. So basically, when you create a backup, there is an option to create also clone of all databases and run a consistency check of all of them. There have been cases where even though this consistency check on the clones succeeded, there actually was a corruption on the open database. So doing
Oh,
this
lovely.
doing this verification once a while can detect this issue if it ever occurs. But I have to say since 19.3 I have only rarely heard about this issue. Until 19.2 it was happening relatively often.
That's true. They have improved a lot there. And even if a database is broken, normally opening it on the server will repair it.
But if you notice it's being repaired, you should still try to look for a backup that does not need that. Well, I think that was amazing amount of information. Are
Yeah.
there any questions remaining to answer, Margaret?
Nope, just people saying this is really interesting, which it was. So thank you very much.
No,
Thank
that's
you for
great.
Well, so I guess we can wrap up and say that there is another interesting interview scheduled to come 2 weeks from now.
Yes.
And that will be color drudgery, showing how to test and how to easily test up to 1,000 concurrent users connecting to your server to see whether it survives or not.
Wow.
Thank you both very much. Thank you, Hans, as
Yeah.
always, for organizing it. It's great to meet you, Philip.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot. Was a really nice experience. Whenever you feel like I could have anything to contribute, just give me a call. It was good.
Absolutely awesome. Glad to hear it. Look forward to having you on again sometime.
Thanks a
HOnza,
lot.
thanks for organizing. Thanks for the experience and thanks for the wonderful talk.
Thank you as well. Take care.
You too. Bye.